Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Keith Andrew Network. This is episode 259. I'm here with a good friend of mine. He is one of Canada's biggest stars. He is Michael Landsberg from Off the Record. And it's a real honor and privilege to have you on the show, sir. I'm a big fan of your show.
Well, you weren't a big enough fan that you didn't wait 259 shows to ask me to be on, but I'm okay with that. And it's a real pleasure and a real honor to be on your show. So thank you.
No, absolutely. Now, for people who want to know what the Keith Andrew Network is, the theme of my show is uncensored. So freedom of speech, freedom of self-expression, that's what uncensored stands for. But for people who want to know what the Keith Andrew Network is, it's basically my way of showing people that even with having a learning disability, I can still overcome controversy and reach my goals in life. At the same time, I'm able to turn myself into a perfect example for people out there dealing with any types of learning disabilities and disabilities. But you should never give up or have people label you, and you should prove to them you can still amount to something. With that being said, half hour, 40 minutes every time. You ask me anything you want, I ask you anything. Normal conversation, supporting a good cause, and you're making a new friend out of it. So starting off, what can you tell us about yourself?
Well, I can tell you, you mentioned your learning disability. That's sort of the nature of this, that when I was a kid, I found it impossible to copy words from a textbook onto a notebook. And I can remember being in grade 2. And I can remember my mom coming to school an hour after school was over and saying to my teacher, and I mean this is a while ago right now, so there's a lot of details that are vague. But the fact that I remember it this long after tells you how devastating this was to me. And I remember sitting there and being unable to take the words in the textbook and write them into my notebook. And my mom came to the door and said to the teacher, "Why is my son still here?" And she said, "Well, he's not doing what he's told, and he's going to be here until he does it." My mom said, "Well, no, I'm taking him with me." And then this is really the only recollection I have, but I still think back to that, and I thought back to it for a long time afterwards and thought, why couldn't I just write the sentence, the dog is black, the dog walked in the door. Why couldn't I look at it in the textbook and write it there? And it really bothered me for years and years and years because I had no understanding of anything about a learning disability. I had no idea what that could even mean or impact on my life. And then when my son was diagnosed with learning disability, I was diagnosed at the same time with dyslexia. And to this day, it explains so much about my life. Still to this day, one of the most difficult things that I have to do is to write by hand. It is next to impossible for me to write anything more than a couple of words. And in my career, people would come over to me and say, "Hey, can I have your autograph?" for instance. And I wanted to write a little note. It would be horrifying that I would write this note and I would get the letters in the wrong order and spell the words wrong. And even my name. I mean, how bad is that when you have to cross out your name and start again?
Right.
So that's a bit about me. Now you tell me a bit about you.
Well, it's pretty much, the same, but I'll give you a perfect example. You went to college, you're this big celebrity, and hopefully one day I get the chance to be like you. You are one of my inspirations, among others. But basically, if we had a competition, you probably do raps around me. Because I learn scaled back. So you're a 10, I would learn at a 5. Like, I can, monkey see, monkey do. I can copy what you're doing, but it's going to be at a slower pace, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense. So tell me, what is it, you would have an idea because of your age and you've been with this and you've studied this and you understand it. What is it that the normal person without the learning disability, and I don't mean that people without learning disabilities necessarily mean that they're normal, but it's just a phrase, right? What is it that a normal person can do that you can't do? Like for me, I'm able to pick this one skill, this idea of writing by hand, of getting the letters in the right order. What is it that's most difficult for you?
I would say a little bit of the hand-eye coordination. Like, my parents say, "Oh, you can drive if you want to," but I just don't feel comfortable. Maybe one day I will find the right car I will feel comfortable in. But just right now, I can give you a perfect example. We're talking about the cars. You know how you sit in the passenger seat and it's comfortable and you can see out? Well, when I'm in the driver's seat and I have that little hump in front of you, and you see the hood, I know you're not supposed to look at the hood, you're supposed to look at the road. But you have this thing in front of you and I'm like, yeah, I don't feel comfortable. But yet, when I'm in the passenger seat and it's lower down and I can see, you know, it's, I guess I'm a little backwards, but, you know, I can't spell if my life depended on it. I can say words. If I repeat it over and over, I can say it. I can't spell. And the same thing with you with copying notes. My teacher used to write stuff on the blackboard, and I used to be like, I used to say, can you write in print for me, please? Because I can't read cursive. I can write cursive, but I can't read cursive. But the same thing, I didn't comprehend why you see write something on the board and then I would write it and it doesn't make any sense. But I never went to college, so I learned at a slower pace. I suffer from depression. I was told I have poor people skills. And it's just, you know, people always labeled me as mentally challenged or retarded. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to show you I can still mount to something no matter what. But this is not going to dictate how I'm going to live my life.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned reading on the board, because in my career in television, one of the things that you do is you read from a teleprompter. So you have these words on the screen in front of you. And for me, reading words that I have written myself, so when I type my own script, even though my typing is horrendous and my spelling is horrendous. I mean, like there's words that I see all the time. Like, ironically, this word has such meaning appropriate to this conversation, but the word success, I can't remember how to spell it, even though I might write it a million times and get spell corrected. The word country, I can never remember. Is it E-Y or Y? I mean, the same words keep coming over and over and over again. Spelling is really tough for me, but when I write the words myself, it doesn't matter, because I see the words the way they were in my head. So even if they're spelled wrong, I get it. But when I have to read someone else's script, Andrew, when it's being written for me by someone else, sometimes I'll look at the teleprompter and I will just draw blank. I'll go, oh my gosh, all I see are a bunch of letters, and they're not grouped together. It looks like someone puked up these letters on the screen, and they're random and they're all over the place. So it's kind of an unusual career to have, given the fact that it's next to impossible for me to read what other people have written. You mentioned that you suffer from depression, which is obviously, I would think, not necessarily related chemically to your struggles with learning disabilities, right? Your learning disabilities and what they've done to your life, I would imagine, can cause you sadness and frustration. But as someone who suffers from depression, that's different than clinical depression. So do you see the two as being related?
Well, it is genetic, because my mother and my grandmother suffered from depression. And
when describe to me, because now I'm sure that you know a lot more about learning disabilities than I would know, but there's a pretty good chance that I may know more about depression than you would know, because first of all, I'm a lot older than you. I've been struggling with it for a long time, and I spend most of my life talking about depression now. So finish this thought for me, Andrew. What they tell me when I Google it is that the symptoms of depression are lack of appetite, inability to sleep at night, sleepiness during the day. But what depression really feels like to me, Andrew, is what? What does depression feel like to you?
Emptiness.
Okay, and expand on that for me.
You know, like emptiness, aloneness, insecure, and it's just, he don't want to do anything. He doesn't want to curl up into a little ball, and that's really.
I would say that all of that resonates with me. One of the things that is the first to go for me when I'm struggling with depression. And I'm on medication and will be on medication the rest of my life, but that doesn't mean I don't have struggles at different times. They're just not as profound as they are when I'm not on medication. But one of the first things that go is self-esteem. You know, this belief that I have in myself, this sort of cocky swagger that I bring to your show. I may still show it, but I don't feel it. And all of the things that I believe today with a reasonably healthy brain, that I have something to offer, that I'm a good person, that my depression is not my fault, that I didn't bring it on myself, all of that goes out the window. And on bad days, I don't believe any of that.
No, absolutely. And I feel the same way. I give you a perfect example. When I was younger, I handled it, but I had social anxiety and I had panic attacks. Make a long story short, and if you're interested, I can tell the story on your show, how all this happened. Basically, I got sick in retail, and my panic attacks just exploded. You know, I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't do anything. I couldn't take a step without vomiting or crying. And it was horrible because it was a worse experience. Basically, I worked in a retail store. They took advantage of me. I got sick out of it. So it took me a whole year to recover. This is back 2007, 08, I was recovering. And for during that time, I couldn't do anything. It was because my anxiety would fire up. It's like, okay, I'm dressed. Okay, I can't do it. I'll do it tomorrow. Next day, okay, I'm better than I was. I'm pumped. Okay, I can't do it. You know, it's basically all those different.
So have you been treated for your anxiety and your depression? And I would imagine you have. I mean, that's the kind of pain that no one should live with, and treatment doesn't work for everybody, but at least everybody should attempt to get better. What have you done?
I saw a therapist. He basically told me to do whatever I want to feel comfortable. And I'm on, like you said, I'm on medication for the rest of my life. And
what do you take?
I take Ativan and Prozac. And basically that helps me with my social anxiety and panic attacks.
Okay, so scale of 1 to 10, if you go back to 10 being the best day of your life and 0 being the worst day of your life. When I say the worst day, not the circumstances of the day, but how you feel. Back in when you were at your worst, if you were, say, a 1, what are you today on medication and having been treated?
Between an 8.
That's great. That's great. That's success. That's modern medicine. That's the kind of thing that you have to share with others, because there's people that suffer from the same thing that you have described, who say, I don't believe in medication. I don't want to go on medication. I'm scared of medication. And you are a success story. You're someone that, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like you were giving your life back with medication.
No, absolutely. We're going to take a quick commercial break real fast. And just do two plugs, and when we come back, I'm going to ask you how you started your career, and then you can ask me anything you want. This is your time after all. But
all right.
First thing I want to promote is, so I don't know if you heard of it, but you are a perfect candidate for this. It's CelebrityVM.com. And
I don't know it.
So I'm on there. And so I give you a perfect example. CelebrityVM.com is for people like me, but mostly people like you who are rich and famous. And it's basically for celebrities, wrestlers, actors, people who like Game of Thrones, people who like Star Trek, Star Wars, WWE, TNA. So these current stars and past stars, you can say, hey, I'm a big fan of, who's on there? Brooke Hogan. Brooke Hogan would say, hey, today's my birthday, my son's getting married, me and my wife are renewing our wedding vows, can we get something? You can say anything you want, and she wants $200. For me, you can ask me anything you want, and for between $20 to $30, because I'm cheap. I say anything you want, but there's a lot of celebrities that are very, and I swear my words is one of my disabilities. There's a lot of
just so you know, I've understood every word that you've said. So maybe I have a de-slurifying program in my head, but you sound great.
I appreciate it. When I'm nervous, it comes out more. But basically, there's a lot of celebrities. Velvet Sky, Melina Perez, that won $25. There's a lot of big names like Brooke Hogan, who wants 200. Gail Kim wants 100. Don't ask me why. Dennis Rodman wants $500. I think I would be happier with the 500. Thank you. Like I am a fan of his, but I'm not. You gotta pay $500 for what? Like a 2-minute video? And anyway, so let's go to celebrityvm.com. I'm on there. You should be on there.
Okay.
And the last one is lootcrates.com. Loot Crates now sells shirts, underwear, socks, shot glasses, toys. It's basically $14 a month for different things. There's also a Bark Box for a dog, and this is perfect. Bark Box will send you a dog toy, dog food, toy, food, toy, and an accessory. And so that's BarkBox.com. There's hundreds of different ones. And now, funny enough, WWE is now doing their own little thing. So go to lootcrates.com. And now, coming back to the show, you did over hundreds of interviews. And one reason I wanted to be on your show is because I'm a wrestling fan and I'm trying to get some media exposure. Just doing a little plug for myself. But you interviewed some of the greatest wrestlers: Vince McMahon, Bret the Hitman Hart, Trish Stratus. I can't remember if you got Gail Kim or not, but you got everyone. And for me, I got certain people. I got Vince Russo. I got Chris Harris. I got C.W. Anderson. And there's a bunch of other ones, but I'm still in the works. But I would love to have Vince McMahon, Eric Bischoff on the show. But the problem is, they said I'm not good enough to have them on the show. And it's so for me to be on your show, yeah, I know I'm hinting towards it, I'm sorry. But what is your honest opinion? Do you think I'm good enough? And does your social media following really dictate, if I give you a perfect example. I talked to this agent who works with Mickey James, and they said to me, well, Mickey James will only be on your show if you had a couple thousand people following him. You understand I have a learning disability, right? Yes. You understand this is a good message and a good cause, right? So you're either telling me to get a couple of thousand people out of thin air, or I have to pay you for your time to be on my show. So directing that back at you, do you think that's selfish? And does your social media following really dictate, should I work with this person or should I not?
Well, let me ask you this. Did I ask you about your social media following when you asked me to do your show?
No.
No, I have no idea whether you have, how big your social media following is. You asked me, and I thought, okay, well, I mean, it seems like, the message of your show and what you're trying to do, I think, is really important. So, for me, it didn't matter. But for other people, and especially for agents, see, if you're talking to someone's agent, the agent needs things that you can quantify. The agent wants to measure things, and the agent doesn't measure good feelings or doing a good deed. The agent just measures how many viewers, and if it's not, or how many followers, and if it's not worth their while, he doesn't pass it along to his guy, so to speak. So, I mean, from my standpoint, obviously, I don't care, but other people clearly do care, and that's the battle, right? You need the guests to be able to get the following, but to get the guests, you need the following. So it's kind of like this conflict that's going on. But I'm here, so and I'm glad to be here. What other sports do you like?
Pretty much hockey, football, professional wrestling. And, besides that, I'm more into I have ADD, HD too, so I have to do something that keeps me moving. Then, so that's one reason I went was wrestling, because it's constantly moving, a lot of interesting people, and that's why I wanted to create my own talk show around it.
I think it's a great idea. I think that you got a lot on your plate, man. I mean, you've told me about learning disabilities, which are severe. You've told me now about ADD. You've told me about depression and anxiety. Have we left anything off here, or is that like sort of the full gamut? I just want to know if there's any more shocks or surprises here. And of course, I'm trying to have fun with you, so don't tell me anything that you don't want other people to hear. But have I missed anything?
There's a lot, but those are the only ones that come to mind.
Well, that's a lot. You got a lot on your plate. And the fact that you have not got in the bed that's behind you right now and said, I'm not getting out of bed because I've got too many strikes against me because life isn't fair. The fact that you're out and you're trying to do something and try to help other people, I think is amazing.
No, absolutely. Now passing the show back to you. Was there anything you wanted to promote in social media, anything you're working on? Who were some of your favorite guests and not so favorite? And while on that subject, I saw that interview where the guy had a temper tantrum and walked off the show.
He's my buddy now, actually. His name is Chael Sonnen. He was a UFC fighter. Now he's a broadcaster. He's probably the best, maybe the best guy I've ever seen with a microphone. And that includes, I've interviewed, you're asking me about wrestling. I've interviewed The Rock. I've interviewed Stone Cold. The best guys, Chris Jericho. Chael Sonnen is as good or better than all of them. That's how good he was. And he got to be my buddy because after he walked off and he was pissed off at me, I sent him an email and said, look, I'm sorry. I had heard that you were the kind of person that liked to be pushed and engaged, and that, if I pushed you, you'd push back, and it would be just good TV. I didn't realize you were going to get pissed off. And basically, he said, yeah, apology accepted. And then a couple of years later, he told me, he said, I was just having a really bad day. He said there were things that were going on in my life that you didn't know about, and because I was just, there's this thing where you push a guy like this, right? And you're hoping that he pushes back, and that makes good for good television. Unfortunately, or fortunately, because I became pretty famous for that, that day he didn't kind of see the fun in what I was doing. But I've been able to interview a whole bunch of people like that. You want to do this for a living. Can I give you a tip right now?
Sure.
You asked me 3 questions all together there. You asked me if there's anything that I wanted to ask you. You asked me who were my favorite interviews, and there was something else in there. If you keep it simpler and more direct, and if you keep your questions shorter, sometimes you can get things out of people when you're a lot more direct. And also, then you're listening to their answer, and if they don't answer that one question you asked them, then you come back and ask it again and say, no, I didn't ask you, Michael, who your favorite guests were. I asked you whatever. So try me again. Let's see if we can make this happen. And if I throw something in you don't like, you go, whoa, wait a second here, and then ask me the question, okay?
All right. So out of all the people you interviewed, who were your favorite ones?
Well, I would say, it's hard for me to say. There's too many people. I can't pick one.
Well,
see, that's where you're supposed to get mad at me now, okay? Yeah. That's where, because I gave you a lame answer. Who can't pick one name out of, I did 3,700 shows. So try it again, and then you need to get a little bit mad at me and push back, okay? Pretending we're on CNN and I'm Donald Trump, and CNN hates Donald Trump, as I hate Donald Trump, but go ahead.
Oh, so the same question, right?
Okay, ask me the question.
All right, so out of hundreds of people, men and women, and children who you interviewed, who is the one that made the biggest impression on your life, and why?
Well, Andrew, I'd say, it's too many. I don't know. I can't just pick one.
Well, you said you interviewed hundreds of people, so there has to be one that you have to comes to mind.
Whoa. That's okay. Okay, you got me there. I would say that my favorite, I really enjoyed people that were and this is going to sound really weird, but people that were smarter than me and didn't have thin skin. So I could then push them, like you just pushed me there. I could push them as hard as I could. I could try to challenge them and try to trap them. And they look like they were capable of fighting back, because if they're not, then I just look like a bully. And number two, that if we did that, if we engaged like that, they wouldn't get mad. They would just go, hey, that's just showbiz. So you know who I really liked was Dana White. I always enjoyed Dana White, the head of the UFC, because we could spar, we could scrap, and he didn't have skin so thick that if he thought that I was being hard on him, he didn't get pissed off, except on camera he would be mad, but then we'd go to commercial and he'd be, hey, what's going on, man? So I really like stuff like that. Michael Irvin, the former All-Pro and Hall of Fame receiver from the Dallas Cowboys, was a guest on Off the Record once a week last fall and the fall before, and I loved him. I mean, I actually said to him, his nickname's Playmaker, I said, Playmaker, this is unbelievable. Here you have a white, middle-aged Jewish guy up in Canada interviewing like one of the coolest, a guy who had the swagger, and we're buddies. I said, this is unbelievable. Like in what world would I get to be your buddy? And the more I said stuff like that, the more I got to be his buddy. So now that you pushed me hard, I had to give it up.
All right, well, come at me. Ask me something. Your turn.
Okay. You say that guests should come on your show because it's good for you, because you want to have a career and you want to do a good job. I would challenge you and say you have to show them why it's good for them. What can you think of when you call an agent and you say, I want to put your guy on the show? Andrew, what can you think of to tell them that would be good for them to come on your show? Because they don't know who you are. They're not responsible for your life. So what could you think of?
I would say, first off, it's a good message. It's a good cause. And looking at your career, marketing-wise, it's a good PR because you're helping someone with a disability reach their goal. And it basically makes you look like a worthwhile human being, because you're going the extra mile to make a difference in someone's life, and you're not being paid. You're just doing it because it's the right thing to do.
See, that is an excellent answer. That's the compelling argument that I could see someone going, yeah, you know what, you're right. That's a really good selling point, because the message that I'm trying to give to you is that there's people that will go, yeah, you know what, if it's good, I like to help a guy. But there's a lot of people who don't want to help a guy. They want to help themselves. So you got to put it in their terms and say, this is why it's good for you. So I think that's a really good explanation. All right, you come back at me. Come on, bring it on. Ask me the toughest question you can think of. You could ask me anything, no matter how personal. Ask me. I'm a guy who talks publicly about his struggles with depression. Obviously, I don't have secrets. So go ahead.
All right. So who influenced you to do your career? And why who influenced you to start your career, and why were you so successful?
Well, I think success is pretty random, right? You've referred to me as successful, you've referred to me as a star, you've referred to me as rich and famous. I'm not sure you know who you're talking to, but I'm not sure you got the right guy. So how funny would that be if we were all the way through the interview and you realized, oh my gosh, this isn't the guy that I thought it was. I'm not rich and famous, I am successful, and I'll tell you why I'm successful, and this gets back to your question. The reason why I would say I'm successful is this, that I have done what I wanted to do. The dream that I had was to perform on camera about sports. That's all I ever wanted to do. That's all I could ever imagine myself doing. And the reason why I was able to do it is because, I believe, my parents instilled in me a sense of confidence and self-esteem that allowed me to fail but still come back for more. So I am successful because I've got to do the things that I wanted to do. And I don't measure my success by anyone else's standards. I don't think of what really, this is one of the things that really insulates you from the pain of being on television and being criticized. I don't care what anyone else says, Andrew. I don't care. I don't listen to compliments, and I don't listen to criticisms. And if you go back into my Twitter feed, you could see a lot of really, really, really insulting things, but none of them bothered me. because I just don't listen and I just don't care. So, yeah, I agree. I'm successful.
No, I feel the same exact way, and I give you a perfect and personal story if it happened to me, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go.
I worked over at Target, and when they hired me knowing the fact I was retarded, I had a learning disability. And besides they were harassing me about my speed thing, that's something else we can talk some other time about. They had me selling credit cards. So occasionally I'll say, I give you a perfect example. Hey Mike, if you sign up today, you save 5% on all your items, every single item. You get 5% off. Would you be interested in that? Actually, yes.
Are you asking me?
Yes. Yes or no?
Would I be? Well, so this would be you would be calling me on the phone and asking me?
Well, you're coming into the store, you're ringing up items.
Sure. Yeah, I'll take 5% off. Yeah.
See, that's easy. Now come at me, and you just say no for everything. Hey, Mike, would you like to save 5% on all these great items? You get tons of great benefits and features. It's well worth it.
No. I don't want any of that.
All right, so I ring up an item that's like $20. I tell you what, just for you, I will give you I will give you the 5%. Just for signing up, you get the 5%. Even if you're not approved for the credit card, you will still get the 5% on everything.
No, thank you. Don't want it. No interest.
All right. So pretty much, I don't take no for an answer. So I negotiate. I keep pushing and pushing. So that no, it's like, well, to tell you the truth, this is they're looking at me over the camera, and I really need to make a sale. So what would I need to do to negotiate to make deals? And they got crazy about that. It's like, well, one, the customers is happy, number one. Two, the customer is always right. And three, you wanted to meet your quotas, so you have to negotiate when selling something. You can't just give, and then once you give, it's like, okay, whatever. But once you're at something, you have to, have a boundary saying, okay, I got something out of it. I got my points for today. They got the 5%. I'm happy. She's happy. It's a win-win. So they basically didn't like that I was negotiating with people. No, that's not the smartest thing to do, but, you were constantly making jokes. Hey, Keith, how about you use some of your magic today? Or we should use some of your magic touches today. Or just some stuff like that. Or just...
And how long ago was that?
10 months ago.
And that's, that's tough. And how long did that keep you down? Like, was it sort of tough to bounce back after that?
Not really, because I was working on my talk show during that time. But I wanted to leave because they hired me knowing I had a learning disability. And they had this register speed. I don't know if they have it in Canada, but it's basically like a supermarket thing. It's basically it times you on how ringing all the items, how fast you are. And they wanted people between 90 and 100. I said, well, I have a learning disability. Most of my numbers are 70s and 80s. If I'm lucky, late 80s. And it's like, well, that's not good enough. You're still moving too slow. So every single day I walk in, I was being double teamed. I was being yelled at. Here's something you would think it's funny. I was accused of stealing because one of the customers would say, I forgot my credit card in the car. Can I go get it? Okay. So I would suspend his transaction. I'll push his wagon to the side. And they said, he never came back. What happened to the stuff? It's right over there. I said, well, it's not over there. Well, one of the co-workers came by and took it. Okay, where's the permission slip? I don't know. I just stuck it in the drawer. Well, that's $300 worth of merchandise that you're saying it just got up and vanished. And I did make a mistake. Yeah, I did tell the customer when the customer came back, I said, here's the paper, go online at customer service and they will check you out. But I didn't know they ran out the door. So yeah, I'm at fault for that one. But when I suspended it, they said, well, if the customer didn't take the money, you're the only person who's more likely to take the money. I'm like, this is your way of trying to fire me, go ahead and let's do it. I don't mean to bitch to you. I just...
That's crappy, and that all stemmed from you just being kind of nice and saying, hey, go to your car and get it. So, there's a lot of crappy people out there, and the problem is we all run into them. Also, the problem is nobody thinks they're the crappy people, right? It's like bullying in schools, or you could go into a gymnasium and ask 1,000 kids in a school, how many of you are bullies, right? And there's no penalty for saying yes. No one puts up their hand. No one thinks they're part of the problem. And but that's, you go through your life and you bump into people who think that they're good people, but they're really not good people. But the key, I think, to achieving anything is being able to bounce back. And obviously you have, because look at you, Andrew, big-time interviewer now, looking to become a bigger-time interview. I really appreciate it.
No, absolutely. Now I'm going to have a couple questions for you after the show once we wrap up. But wrapping up, how can people follow you on LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter? And do you have any funny stories you'd like to share? Wrapping up.
Are you kidding? I have funny stories about everything. Everything that happens to me turns into a funny story. You know why, Andrew? You know how I do it? I lie. I take a little thing and make it sound big. I'm a liar. I'm a compulsive liar. Everything I've told you is lies. Not the case, obviously. People can follow me on Twitter at Hey Landsberg, H-E-Y Landsberg. And that's probably the best place to get me. I have a website called sicknotweak.com. It's a place for people with depression who've struggled. And I need you to move your head to the right a little bit, to the right, so I can see the dog or cat. Is that a cat?
Cat.
That's your cat. What's your cat's name?
Cassidy.
You tell Cassidy, hey, I'm on with Michael here, and he does not want you share. He doesn't want to share the spotlight with you. You tell him, okay? Tell Cassidy.
Come on, Cassidy, wake up. Oh, there you go.
There you go. But I mean, that's all. People don't need to track me down. My pleasure to be on with you.
No, absolutely. Thank you for taking the time.